I was speaking with Obasanjo one time and he listed some things. I said, those are the things that are necessary to... Should I find the chart?
Find the chart.
So you need 7 governors to win an election. Lagos, Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, Kano, Kaduna, and the CBN governor. I've been to the houses of a lot of these big men, governors and the rest of them, and I see wives. I'm not kidding. Wives of people that I know coming to do things. And then we'll greet. So, I don't know, how are you? How's everything? And then those guys will do all their philandering and tap her bum. Come on, go back inside. I'm not finished with you. And then she'll go back inside. And then I run into her at an event in Lagos. And the husband said, how are you? Meet my wife. I said, man, I have the pleasure of seeing you nearly 5 years. Where have you been? And she's like, I've been around. I said, good to see you. And then we'll continue. If you see a taxi driving slowly on the right side of the road, it doesn't have a passenger. Most drivers like to hog the left side of the road, which is the fast lane.
Yeah, which is the fast lane.
So if you see them on the fast lane,
slow.
If you see them,
remember that your promo on Nigerian food.
Exactly.
Why do slow drivers like to drive
why are you driving on the fast lane?
Yeah.
But if you see them driving on the fast lane, they have a passenger because there's nobody that will pull them over to hop on their ride. But if you see them on the slow lane, then they don't have a passenger.
They are a present danger.
Exactly. They can either pick a passenger, so they stop at any time, or pull out after picking a passenger.
Yeah.
So, which is why you see some people who then like to drive straight on the fast lane because they don't want anybody to pull out or enter their lane. But it's really... So, biking. Then one day, a friend of mine, a Ferry of Zako, blessed memory, told me that I should come and test his bike. I rode CD 195 in 1982. There's a photographer who taught me photography. I was going into the dark room to learn all of these things and help him check negatives. So one day he said, that he's done these frames for this man and he's going into the dark room to work for another person. Can I take these pictures to deliver? So I took the CD 195, revved it. It was very powerful. For a young man like me, then it was very powerful, the sound. And so I was just going beat by beat. And that was how I learned how to ride. Well, I used to ride a bicycle, so I could get the basic. So when he now offered me a ride, I said, do you like the bike? I said, so come and take it and you can take it for a spin for the whole of Saturday. So I went to his place, picked the bike in Sulere, and rode it to my house. Then I was living off Queen's Drive. When I got in, they opened the gates. I removed my helmet. My guard then, said, okay. I did ride the bike. I said, yes. That I was revving and honking. So my wife came up in the window. I said, see what I'm on. She said, what are you on? Drugs? Because she had said before that you want to make me a widow. So I just thought about it. I was like, Lagos is really not safe to ride. Sometimes you see bikes coming out, swinging through lanes, crossing lanes, and another car picks them. Sometimes another bike picks them. So, no, biking, nah. I like to be, which is what informed my liking to drive big trucks. Now, when there's impact during an accident, if you're in a big truck, your chances of survival and less injury are much higher. Much higher. If you are in a mini and you ram into a Land Cruiser, the Land Cruiser will not be as damaged as your mini, unless a Land Cruiser rams into a Land Cruiser. But a Picanto and the Mini, they ram into themselves, no problem. But just imagine that Picanto or the Mini ramming into a Dangote trailer.
Yeah. And they don't even have to be that big.
Exactly.
So when I used to drive my LR, which was one of the older, stronger,
yes, very
stronger bodied ones, and some driver acting funny hits you.
You come down, take a look.
Take a look, and you're like, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
So once like that somewhere in Lagos, I can't quite remember, I was in a Hummer, and this guy was reckless, bashed the car. He came down from the Hummer to go and rake the guy, because the guy's vehicle was a wreck. I was looking at the Hummer, not even a scratch. I was like, what's the point?
Exactly.
just
exactly.
go.
And talking about the Hummers, the Humvees were made for the desert storm.
Yeah, certainly.
And it's expected that in those kind of places, you will not get maintenance, you will not get replacement. And most of the damages you have to that car will have to leave until somebody comes to do major repairs. So you have to drive it like that. So it was made to last. And when they now made the commercial value of it and the commercial editions of it, it still carried on that tradition. So you find that the hubs, the tires, the rims, the shafts, everything could last for a long time. So that car is made to die. Quite a lot of people do not know the strength of the Hummer until you begin to punish it. You see some people just drive it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. They've not serviced it. They just keep driving. Then one day somebody says, when was the last time you serviced it? And you're like, it's a long time. Then they go drain the oil out. I went to Ibadan one time, and one guy told me, this car has knocking sound. I still drove the car, the Hummer, from Ibadan to Lagos before they then checked and saw that one of the pistons had broken. They changed it. I still have the Hummer till now. Since 2014, I still have the Hummer till now. So you see, sometimes durability, you're still talking about, some people do not know why they buy cars, but there are different reasons people buy cars. Some people buy it because a friend of mine has the type. Some people buy for comfort. Some people buy for the kind of area they live in. The kind of area you live in, you're like, I can't drive a Ferrari to that place. But I can drive a Hummer. I can drive a Land Rover LR3. I can drive any of those to those places, or a Wrangler. But you can't then buy a Camry and take to those kind of places and not suffer maintenance problems. So some other people buy it for the looks. The Cybertruck that Elon Musk has put out now, it will not pass as the most beautiful car.
The old pickups look better.
Exactly. But people drive it for status. People drive it to say, I've arrived. People drive it because it's trending. People drive it because it will make me look like I belong. So you then find people who drive a car because of their physical structures. You look at basketballers. There's no car they will drive that doesn't have leg room. If it doesn't, sometimes they take out the front seat so they can sit at the back.
I just saw Shaquille O'Neal order a new whip. He didn't even know. By the time they delivered, he was asking, when did I order?
Exactly.
And when he sat in it, he was like, oh yeah, it's like, it was like, okay, this must have been why I ordered.
Yes. Because the thing is, they like to move their driver's seat all the way to
the back. It's almost driving from the back seat.
Exactly. So these guys, people who wear size 56, 57 shoes, Shaquille O'Neal especially, he wears size 100.
Man Mountain. Huh?
Exactly. So the different reasons that make people. Then some people buy cars because of how economic it is to maintain. Which is why people go for most Toyota brands and all of that. So you then find some people who then buy a car because somebody was traveling. Circumstances. So you buy because of circumstances. So my friend was traveling. He wanted to sell the car. The price looked good. So they buy for prices as well. And all of this, some people do not even know what a car can do. The fact that it just takes them from point A to point B. I asked one guy one time, I said, this place you drove past now, you should have lifted your car up when you were driving past the place. He said, how do you do that? I showed him the button. He was like, wow. He didn't know. So I asked him, why did you buy the car? He said, it is a leather seat. That he always wanted a cream leather seat interior. That he didn't like upholstery, but when he saw the leather seats It was cream and it was beautiful. That was why he bought it. So people have different reasons for buying. It is the same reason people have for going into different things. There are some people who are politicians who are in the Senate because they found that they are retired governors, past governors, and so that all other governors are going up to the Senate. That's why they're in the Senate. It is not because they have any valuable thing to contribute to development of this country. Some others have found that after becoming governor for 8 years, it's now hard to come by those excess funds
and privileges
and respect and all those things that you get in the society. And it's like, but if you step into the Senate, you can get a fraction of it. You know, who knows? You might even be Senate president one of these days, and it will look like you're governor again.
At least you could be there for a lifetime.
Exactly. So you don't have to do elections all the time, or even when you do elections, you are guaranteed to come back. So what's the sweat? So I asked one guy one time, I said, why is he running for Senate? He said his business had not been doing well.
And it needs a shot in the arm.
I said, oh, your business has been saying, this oil and gas thing, but he has some savings, and I've devoted my time to behavioral study, political study, seeing people, relating with them, and understanding why they do the things they do. People are shouting, Lagos is so crowded, Lagos is the fall net for a lot of politicians. So you are in a state, let's say, use a state, Ekiti, you're in the opposition, and then the other team wins. When they win, the state is not comfortable for you. So what do? You look for the best place to stay. You've made some money. You rent a house in VGC, Parkview, Banana, depending on how much you stole. How much you... Sorry. I take that back. Depending on how much you made. And so you... Okay, so you are rubbing it in now, right? Okay. And on, of course. And then you now think of, should I see, I don't have so much relevance in that state anymore. So let me relocate my family. So you relocate them to Lagos, get them a very comfortable place, give them 2 drivers. You get one for yourself, 3 drivers. You have a big queue that the drivers can stay, apply to the police to give you 2 policemen, 1 in the house, 1 with you. And some of the monies that you acquired while you were in government can still sustain you till the next election. So when the next election comes, you dabble into it again. If you succeed, you relocate the family back to, or then keep your Lagos house, and then it becomes your getaway place,
country home,
exactly. Or you then hit it big to the point maybe you're a deputy governor, or you're the speaker, or you're a commissioner, and then you become relevant again in the state, and then you begin to move back. But Lagos is the safe home or safe house. Yes, safe house. If you don't win any election in your state and you're beginning to have issues with the current government, you just relocate to Lagos. But if you then have powerful people who were in your state before and were governing, and then they become ministers, you move to Abuja and stay there. So the reason people do a lot of things differ. Somebody is thinking of coming to Lagos now. You're going to be competing with those people, the Yahoo boys, the politicians, the fraudsters, the people who manage funds for politicians. Oh yes, those people who manage funds for politicians. They're the ones that drive up the cost of houses and everything. So you put your house for 2 million. An agent comes to you and says, "Sir, we can get you 10 for this house." The man is like, "No, I put it for 2 million." Say, "Okay, sir, we'll give you your 2 million. We'll take the whole place for 4 years." will manage it for you. And then they jack up the place for 4 million that you were asking for 2 million. And they get it. They advertise and they get it. And you're actually seeing it like, meanwhile, you still have about like 3 other properties that you have not put to let. You will call the guy managing your properties. Are you guys okay?
Baby, what's going on?
Are you insane? That house that you are renting for 2 million, do you know the one that is not even as good as this one was taken for 4 million? They jack it up. Guess who gets to rent it? Some politician who wants to give his girlfriend a good apartment so that he can sneak into that kind of apartment and have a good time. He will rent it without thinking of anything. He say, how much is it? Say 5 million. Say, take 2 years. 2 years out of his 4 years. He's good. And so these are all the things that are happening. So there are reasons for everything. For instance, all the noise you're hearing now about politics in Akwa Ibom, Edo State, Rivers State, and rest of it. It's funding. Elections are coming. Who will man the purse? I was speaking with Obasanjo one time and he told me, he said, he listed some things. I said, those are the things that are necessary to find the chat. Should I find the chat?
Find the chat. That would be interesting.
I'm just going to read the chat. He said, so no, for him, it was like he thought I was going to go into politics. So he was very happy when I was talking with him. He said, Ali, I'm happy that you are now.
I don't know what kind of witchcraft you practice, because I was going to ask you
about the relationship with him.
No, not just about him. You said he thought you were going to go into politics. I was going to ask you why.
Why I did not. I'll get to it. So he says, He says, Ali, I'm going to read that. Ali, I'm happy you are catching up with politics, but you still have a lot to learn. And I said, like what, sir? He said, like how you get governors and presidents elected. So you need 7 governors to win an election. Lagos, Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, Kano, Kaduna, and the CBN governor.
To win at federal level, a presidential
election. You need 7 governors. 1, Lagos. 2, Bayelsa. 3, Delta. 4, Rivers. 5, Kano. 6, Kaduna. 7, the CBN governor.
So you just, without, even if you are a political novice,
you know what all this means.
Understand the permutation.
Exactly. And so when I said, but Kano and Kaduna don't have much. He said, that's for numbers.
For numbers. True. For numbers.
He said, and what is money? That's numbers too. All right. He goes to say, you need 44 of the most popular senatorial districts. He said, you need to have awarded 10 contracts, and 15% of that contract can give you marginal impact at the polls. And you must award these contracts in your first year of assumption of office.
Whoa.
Because if you don't do that, then you can't ask the people for anything. Because when you give them at the first year of your getting into office, when it's time for elections, you just tell them, do you want to continue this contract or... they know what to do. He said, you must name your CGN, you must name your IGP, you must name your Controller General Customs, you must name the head of the NNPC, you must name your CBN governor. And if you want to get into the judiciary, you must suspend pending cases of corrupt past governors who are loaded. Don't forget that those guys have chests.
War
chests that's just sitting down waiting for who they want to align with. No matter how much EFCC milks from them, they still have plenty. These are people who were sitting on a monthly federal allocation. Don't forget that sometimes when your federal allocation, like some states will mention, when they get their federal allocation, they don't touch it. They actually add to it because their state internally generated revenue is higher than what the federal gives to them. So if federal government gives them 3 naira, they can add 4 naira to it and spend 7. So when they leave office, EFCC can't come look for them because they added money to what federal government gave them. But you see that internally generated revenue, that is their sweat, as it's called. It's their money they generated it themselves. They can determine anything they want to do with it. Lagos State internally generated revenue is higher than what federal government gives them.
Obasanjo seized it for like forever.
They call this bluff.
Nobody cared.
They call this bluff. That's what we used to pay salaries. Just and then it says, yes, this is the meaty part of it. Say get US or China support. Because of their businesses in your country, they would support whoever. You had the fallout from the Senate in this thing that said how they helped Buhari to get into office and remove Jonathan. National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, Market Women,
NURTW.
Unsettled the organized labor.
Settle or unsettle?
Unsettle. Now, organized labor is where you then have people who protest. We are not this, we are this, and we are supporting that. We don't like this. All of that. There's one other. Get 10 of the richest Nigerians on your side. And we know the usual suspects. Infiltrate opposition parties and let them decamp before election. So you have your party. I want to infiltrate the party. I'll send my people to leave my own party and join your own party before the elections. So when the time of elections comes, they will then disrupt the whole thing. They probably will be the ones they put in charge of electioneering campaign. You won't know that the reason they decamp from that side was to make sure that your own campaign doesn't succeed. So when you are planning and saying, no, this is what we'll do this, they inform those people that this is what they plan to do. So by the time...
And later on, you will hear they are going back to their old party.
Exactly. Then they somebody did it when he said, he was supposed to be... I think Ashiwaju's campaign guy. Then he left to go and support the guy from Kano. Sometimes when these people say some things, you have to respect this. Infiltrate opposition parties and let them decamp before them. Buy delegates 1 year before your congresses. 1 year before the congresses, buy them. So I asked, how do you buy congresses? It's okay, so this is what you do. You know who and who will be selected as delegates. You can permutate and say, this man will be delegates in another 4 years. You give 2 of his daughters jobs in a bank. You give this other person's wife a shop in so and so place. This other person wants to go to Hajj, they go to Hajj. This one wants to do something. When the time for election comes and you say, this is the person I'm supporting, because of those people that you have given, they won't mess up. While some people are trying to raise money to give dollars to some people, you already have bought their loyalty since. Have a hand in appointing all party chairmen, all parties chairmen, all parties. So it's not. So when you hear that 2 people are gunning for an office and you are not in the party, you call the other parties running against him and say, you want to be chairman? We'll fund you. Right. Secure INEC and state rec, blogs and social media, religious leaders, royal fathers, appointment of board of chairmen and DGs. It says, refer to number 2. Get 4 constitutional lawyers on retainership. See, when it comes to politics, so, and now to answer your question correctly, why have I not gone into politics? I was offered Minister of State during Obasanjo's time, and I was supposed to go and do the rounds to get, so that by the time I go to the assembly, I can, which was what affected Rufai as well. He was listed as minister.
Yeah.
But he said he was not going to do what he's supposed to do. There's some people, as soon as you mention that they would become something, they put the machinery in action to go talk to the people who will screen them.
Certainly.
Yeah. So that's why you hear sometimes some people get into the hallowed chambers and they say, take a bow. And then some come and they drill them. This is not accusing anybody of anything, but it is what we see.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see some people, you're like, this man should be asked questions. He has cases waiting in this. Why is he not being asked questions? Why was he not asked? Why this? Why was he not asked Ajaokuta still question? Why was it? But then, and I decided as a no politics, and I know if I get public office in the first week, Mama sack me. Mama said they will sack me. They will sack me. I got one political appointment, as it were. After that one, of course, that one didn't work. I was made the chairman of the COVID creative industry.
Okay. Yes. True.
As soon as I was named, if you hear harassment, who is he? Who, from where? The creative industry, where there are broadcasters seizing this, seizing that. What is he? What was? And of course, Lai Mohammed was ready for them. And Lai Mohammed said, this same guy you are talking about has created content for TV stations and radio stations. He's worked in advertising. He's presented radio programs. He's presented TV programs. He owns a broadcast house. He does this and does that. He's worked in entertainment for so long. He's nearly 40 years. Some of you joined after he had even started. And he understands these people. So why would he not be chairman? By the way, have you sat with him to hear his mind tick? And he said, well, he's the chairman. And gave me, I think, one lady from the north, Saad, Alaja Saad, to be my vice chairman. We did a thorough job and submitted. And that job is now being leveraged on by subsequent governments, which was one of the reasons that National Theatre was not sold. So most times it is that when people don't know, people see me and a comedian. Okay. And unknown to most of them, some of your biggest strategies in your campaigns were drafted by this man that you're calling a comedian. Some TV commercials that you see and you're like, oh, this is really nice. Yeah. Some speeches that some people read. The saving grace is non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
So that's a saving grace.
Yeah, is kicking.
Yeah. So the NDA is kicking. You sign it, and when people are talking, you're like, it's okay.
You know what you know.
You know what you know.
You don't know what you don't.
Because the thing is, for agencies, advertising agencies who call you for copies, and you write the copies and give them, the minute they know that every time they call you for copies, people, the client knows that they were not the ones that knocked out this copy. It begins to water down their relevance. Those ones, let us call the guy directly. True. But you want to stay in business and continue to. And for political strategy and all of that, we also do that. Somebody says, oh, we want to penetrate a particular area. You then suggest things that lead to them having serious advantage. It could be from the market women. It could be from the Okada riders. It could be from religious leaders, whatever. But strategy, as long as the end result justifies the means. Anyway, that's for politics. So for me, what did RM become? I'm gone for hire. You need something done. You need a strategy to be knocked out quickly. We'll knock it out for you. Yeah.
In my experience interfacing, I remember how many times in the past where you just call me and say, Femi, I have this idea. Why not try this? And when you do, you don't say much. Why not try this? You can look at it like, and I just reckon that is just you. You don't hoard your ideas. If you have something that you feel will be beneficial, you share, and say, why not try this?
I think what really drives me is the Joseph philosophy. Joseph was thrown in jail on false accusation of trying to Akpabio, Potiphar's wife.
That's an adjective now.
And it looks like from everything the Bible says,
Potiphar's wife
was in Natasha. Just saying. And while he was in prison, but that's not to say whether, because the thing is, the truth is still yet to be known.
Yeah.
There's still one person says this happened, and this other person says this. But in the case of Joseph,
in that case, at least, we
read that it was false. And so while he was in prison, that thing that happens with people, like if you have an Egbon that has been denied the opportunity to travel overseas, and he's sitting in the house, and somebody says, Ebotaju, the anger of like, I said I wanted to go to London. If you didn't let me go to London, nobody should call me. The angst that Joseph would have had would have stopped him from interpreting any dreams to anybody.
True.
When his own dreams are inside the cell.
Vindictiveness.
Like, please, let me just Botlani. Something that brought him here.
Yeah.
But you see, from the way that story went, there was nothing that would have stopped the butler from being free. Because it wasn't the interpretation of the dream that made the butler free. But the butler was free all the same after Joseph's interpretation of the dream.
Yeah.
And when Joseph finished interpreting the dream and the butler was about to leave, there's some business things there that I also learned. Joseph didn't take it that my job was done. Joseph still told him, remember me. So he put a marketing this thing there. So remember me.
And the guy actually forgot for years. So.
Exactly. And who knows whether Joseph had called somebody to say, tell this guy. Did you forget that? And I say, Now, I believe that Joseph's philosophy works for me. If I have an idea, have a joke, I think if I'm watching a comedy performance and the guy tells a joke and milks about like 4 opportunities for laughter, I'm like, good. But you could actually have pushed it a bit further like this. In fact, you get greater laughter and more impactful memory of this joke if you did this and did that. And it works. So why keep it to myself? I'll tell the guy. If the guy's head is screwed tight, he will know what I did and may mention it anytime he feels like, which is not necessary to do, but he would remember that. And then the other time he has a joke and he's building on it, he will call me and say, bros, what do you think about this joke? And you can weigh in on it and help him develop it a bit further. That's who I am. I post things on Instagram and say, I think this should be done. Which is the first time I had an altercation with Akpabio man, was when he wanted to build a stadium. My position was, why not just go to Reading, the outskirts of London, and buy a stadium and expand it and be making money every weekend. On days you're not making money, when Premiership is closed down or the League One is closed down, people can use it for concerts. And the commercial activity that keep going on around the stadium in Reading, which is like 10, 15 minutes from London, will make a lot of money. So that way, if you spend the 14 billion that you used to build this stadium in Uyo, in Reading, you can make a lot more money for the state. So it will be an investment that keeps giving. All right? Okay, so let's leave Reading. Uyo has a deep seaport of 4 meters undrafted. That is, as it is nearly as deep as your Lagos port. So what you just need to do is go there, dig it deeper, so that bigger ships can come to the place. And so you build a port, which will bring more economic value to the state. A seaport or a stadium. That's how I think. Now, if you build the seaport, customs will set up an office. Police will set up an office. Navy will set up an office. Clearing and forwarding agents will set up offices.
Yeah.
Mechanics will set up other allied businesses.
The value chain.
The value chain will just continue increasing. And then you will then have properties in the state blow up. The real estate value in the state will just be astronomical, because all of these people that are coming to the state, relocating to the state because of your deep seaport, will come with their families. And when they come with their families, your markets will grow. The nightclubs in the state will grow. Churches will grow. Your supermarket will increase. Schools will have more people, because the people that are coming with their families would have places to go to. Then your fashion shops, salons, barbing salons and all of those things. Hotels will begin to increase as well. The value proposition will just skyrocket. The revenue the state will generate will increase as well, right? But you build a stadium. Okay, 1, 2, 3 matches every now and then. But before matches are played, you have to maintain the stadium, Abi. From that first time that the stadium was built, it was about like 30 to 40 million to maintain it every month. I think by now it's about like 200 and something million that you have to spend to maintain the stadium every year.
It's become more of a liability than an asset.
Exactly. But then it was like, well, what does he know? What do I know? Maybe I'm just a comedian. So sometimes when you mention things like that, people look at you like, what does he know? It's okay. So you chill. But you still have to offer any idea that you have. So, when you guys gave me the airtime here to do Alibaba seriously.
Yeah.
I was in traffic one day. Then Owoshoki area, I think they were repairing that bridge area. And so traffic was diverted to the Lagos Western Avenue. Mm-hmm. And so the traffic buildup was always very high. People would get to Yaba and go down and turn at that Adekunle place, And I was in traffic for like 2 hours, 3 hours, between the hours of 2 and 6 p.m. And I came and I said, can we start a program called Alibaba Seriously? So that we can talk to people, liven them up. So even when they're in traffic, within that time, they don't even feel like they're in traffic. They feel like they're at home or somewhere, gisting with friends and having. And we started doing the program. We got, we even gleaned from your promo at the time, meet my guys, with the Nkoro and all of them. So
Kelele and all
Kelele, so meet them. And then all of them then spoke. We had the guy called Jeff, who was speaking like a white man.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And so we just had different people on the show. And what did they all do? They brought their experiences from different parts of Lagos, weighed in on different issues. We're talking about should a man have more than 2 wives? Should a man have more than 2 children? Would you marry somebody if the person already had been married? And that was when, in fact, that day was when we then found one woman called and said, do you notice that when the sons of some men, when some women, their sons are widowers, they harass them to get married quickly. But when their daughter-in-laws plan to get married, they're like, when did he die? Just 7 years ago. But their sons, they will not let the son stay. 1 year, they're like,
They brought
this is how you want to stay. So we started understanding that things change. And from that program, we got people who were calling in. There was a Hausa guy that was calling in. Everybody was sharing their different interpretation and perspectives on different issues. It was not about me. It was a program that just felt the pulse of the people. And then there was a time, long ago, I started a show called Tom, Dick, and Ali on AIT back then, and I was giving out prizes and people were calling. I had this intercellular line and people would call on the line. And for me, it was adding value because people were winning things that they could use. Electric iron, microwave, refrigerators, ceiling fans, table fans, fridge, food processors, and all of those, because those were things that people could, which is what you would have called palliative now.
Yes, so
you understand? Even there was somebody who won a generator. He won a generator, and the generator was given to me by a man called Emily Millionaire, the guy that used to do some hair thing.
Emily Hair
Products. And when the man won the thing, the man was crying when he came to AIT to collect it. And said that he has an ice block business. And this was just going to make a difference.
Just what he was looking for.
I wasn't doing it so that he would like me, but because it will add value to the person's business. So sometimes when I have ideas and I share it, and truly, not everyone you give an idea will run with it.
Definitely not.
Yeah. But God gave people three talents things to run with it. So if they could do that to God,
one went and hit it.
Yes. So that's how life really is.
There are a number of the things that you said here that are very profound for me. Like when you mentioned this Honda CD195.
Okay, no, you're old school.
Roadmaster. They used to call it.
Roadmaster.
I remember that because my dad had actually bought that thing, and at that point,
double exhaust.
It was the creme de la creme of
biking. It was
biking.
the Rolls Royce of biking
at that time. Yeah. And like you said, your wife had said, my mom said literally the same thing to my dad.
That you want to make me a widow.
You want to make me a widow.
Yeah.
And she didn't allow it. So as we were saying that, I was like, okay.
It happens everywhere.
And now you just went back to Tom, Dick, and Ali on AIT. I caught that show. Ooh. Do you remember that you did not approach Nigeria Info for Alibaba seriously? We approached you.
Yes, they saw me at the events in the Co-Hotel.
Yes.
Certainly. I said, what can you do with us?
The other part that you are probably hearing for the first time today, that Tom, Dick, and Ali had a hand in that. And I remember I was in the office of our chairman then.
Okay.
And we were talking about, so I had an idea.
What's the other guy that died?
From the group?
Not chairman here.
Yeah, I'm talking about
chairman.
And we're literally talking about, so something was happening. We said we wanted a comedy show, and we were running a promo on radio for comedians. Let's do a comedy show. And I didn't think it was a good idea. So I was in a meeting with the chairman. I was like, why do it's good to give people the platform, Why can't we go for the person who has been called the grandfather of comedy, who also has a reputation for giving people a platform? And I remember very much, it was that show on AIT that I used as reference in that conversation.
Yeah.
It was one episode I saw that really took me out. The episode where you were cooking.
Oh, okay. Yes. I was cooking egusi soup.
Cooking egusi soup on stage. And, the stage, you would have all these gifts here and all of that. And you will sit down, you have your phone, and you'll be talking to people.
People on the phone, yes.
And you were cooking, and you got to the point where you started to add pepper. And you added your pepper. You added the pepper, and then you said, this is all the pepper I want to add. Then you cook your own. You can add, because it's only Yoruba people that I see. They will add tatashe,
atarodo,
and they must put all in the
And they were wondering why did I fry my egusi first.
Fry your egusi.
Yes, they said, why did I fry my egusi first?
And for me, I think that was the most profound because I saw multiple episodes.
Okay.
But that one was just there, and I was like,
you know, there was an episode that I was in. I was in Taraba, and I told Mohammed Danjuma to stand in for me, and he gave out all the gifts. Now there were no telephones like this then, like and I was calling the monkey. I said, Namure. Because Namure was my producer. Yeah. I said, Namure, what's he doing? They will call and say, where are you calling from? Say, I'm calling from Ojota. What's your name? Say, Namdi. Say, no price. Somebody will just call. He said, my name is Abdullah. He said, you have win. He gave out electric cooker, electric burners, he gave out kettle. Yes. One guy called and said, hey, yeah. I said, you have a wife? He said, yeah, where is she? He said, rapper. One man now called, and man was speaking Hausa. So he asked the guy in Hausa, he said, how many of you are in your house? The guy said himself, his wife, and his mother-in-law. He said, let them come on the phone. He said, what does she want? She said, blender. He said, you win blender. Then one guy called, he said, see, in his he said, Kai, I don't want any problem from anybody here. Today that Ali has made me president in council, everything going to the north. If you think I'm lying, go and ask everybody. That is how we do it. Everything goes to the north now. And Mohammed is such a brilliant comedian. I was
fantastic guy.
After a while, I started being agitated. I was laughing. I was like, this idiot. And I think for me, humor is a catalyst for unity. Once you understand it, I read a philosopher, a German philosopher that said, if you want to understand a society, listen to the humor that they have about themselves. It's a good listen to the humor of them. And the man buttressed his story, his argument, and saying that, did you not know that there was a reason that every king back in the days always had a jester? A
jester. There was always a court jester.
He said the court jesters will listen to everything everybody has said. When they leave, the king will ask him, what did you hear that they didn't say? And the court jester will be like, that man is the one that slept with that man's wife. I mean, like, why do you think so? Is it because of this thing he said and this thing he did not say? And they say, okay, who do you think stole that goat? He said, I don't think any of them stole the goat. But the person that sold the goat is the same wife that is complaining because the goat belonged to the in-law. And when he says it, they say you sit back later and think about it and you're like, that was so right. Kings never played with their jesters. They call them the palace clowns, but they sit there and listen to everything. Which brings me to how I got to know Obasanjo. When I started reigning from the 1987 up to 1999 when he came into office, he was in jail. And so as I was making waves, he was chilling in a cell. And so when he came out of prison, and Bode George now wanted, and before that, Bode George was very prominent military Air Commodore and Navy Commodore. And I was within his, so there was a man called Colonel Soluade who was living in Dolphin Estate at the time that called me and said that Colonel Soluade, Bode George wanted to see me. So I went to see Bode George. And Bode George now said, we're going to Mina. I said, what's happening? Oh, we're going to see the man that has been appointed, the new CNC. So we came back. And then he then said, okay, Obasanjo is going to be the next president. And he said, but you must not tell anybody. I said, really, sir? He said, yes. It's okay. And that's when I started walking the corridors of power. And I knew that most of these men would trust you with certain things and see if you blab.
This must probably be before that time of that famous CNN interview where they were asking Obasanjo whether he would be president when he had just come out of jail, and he said no.
He said no.
I said, what if the people want you? He said, no, my chickens miss me.
Yes,
I just want to go back to my farm.
They had the meeting with him.
He knew already.
Yeah, he knew already.
The benefit of hindsight. And you knew too.
Yeah.
And you didn't tell us.
Then one time I went to meet Bode George and Kolestrolua Day, and they were discussing these issues. And he said, I would see. When he called, when Abdul Salam called him, he stood up. This is phone call. He was using a 090 phone. He stood up.
Thuraya.
He stood up.
Yeah.
And when he stood up, I was talking with him. I saw myself stand up, and I saw Kolestrolua Day stand up. And they said, oh, that was the CNC. The man is not here. 3 of us sitting here, didn't call on video. And they were standing up like military men. And I would have been in the military too. I went to NDA course 37, 38. And most of my people are the people who are in power now, the chief of army staff, the chief of naval staff, all of those people. In fact, the guy that came in course 40 is now the GOC for Akwa Ibom. So we were all like classmates who went to do...
What division is Akwa Ibom again? Is it mechanized or infantry?
So now, anyway. I think it would be amphibious.
Yeah, amphibious, okay.
Yeah. So I look back now and say, I would have been a military general by now.
I know.
Or Mbatikpami, because maybe I would have been involved in a coup. Because I would not tolerate some of all this mediocrity and all of that. So maybe, but God was just so. I think about all of this, and I was telling Kolestrolua, I said, when we finish, then one day a friend of his was somewhere. We went to boat club and they were gisting. Colonel Vaughan. That's Colonel Vaughan, and they were gisting. And they were talking about that, so will come back. I said, I don't know. I don't follow these military things like that. One of the men that was in the house that day that they were talking turned and looked at me and said, really? I said, I don't know anything about all these military people and their things. Let them do whatever they want to do. He went back and told Bode George. He said, that guy is a good boy. He said, we were in this conversation and the boy didn't do like he knew anything. He said, I know I'm more than Danny. I've been to the houses of a lot of these big men, governors and the rest of them. And I see wives, and I'm not kidding, wives of people that I know come in to do things untoward.
That you will not talk about in the podcast.
And then we'll greet. So, I don't know, how are you? How's everything? And then those guys will do all their philandering and tap her, boom, come on, go back inside. I've not finished with you. And then she goes back inside. And then I run into her at an event in Lagos. And the husband said, how are you? Meet my wife. I said, madam, it's a pleasure. I've not seen you nearly 5 years. Where have you been? And she's like, I've been around. I said, good to see you. And then we'll continue.
Yeah.
And maybe she then sees me somewhere again.
She'll be wondering, does he have amnesia?
No, she comes. And then some of them, they come and say, Ali, thanks. And I say, it's okay. So, trust matters in corridors of power.
It does.
You can't.
Confidentiality.
Yes. that things I've sat with people, they're saying and talking about this issue of Uyo Stadium, everything. I've sat with Baba and all those conversations they're talking about whether Julius Berger should build this bag or which construction company should build it, and then they're talking about it. Now, that's what some people leverage on in Abuja. If they sit with somebody and they're saying, oh, this man's payment should go, should we pay him half now and pay him? They step out of that room and call the person, I'm pushing now for your payment to be done. All right, so tomorrow, go to NNPC, your money is ready. Because you overheard some big men discussing the issue. And then when the money comes out, that man will be like, thank you, the money has come out, this one is yours. Something he had no hand in. They call themselves lobbyists. They're all in Abuja.
Yeah.
All right. You want to get a TV license because they know the NBC man. The NBC man is talking to somebody, and then your license comes out. They make you feel like they were the ones that told the man to give you the license. So walking in the corridors of power requires wisdom, requires some restraints in conversations and secrecy as well. And I've maintained that with OBJ. I've heard all kinds of conversations. And then when people there ask me, what did this? I know nothing about it.
And you've been close through the years.
Oh, yes.
One of the things about power is that usually the relationships devolve eventually. But you could tell when the relationships continue down the years, you could see.
Yeah. So in the case of Baba, he then went beyond just being. Sometimes my phone rings then. I had this multi-links phone. The big black one, bigger than this at that time, it will ring and I'm like, hello? They say, hold on for number one. Are you close here? Where are you? They didn't tell you that you are supposed to, where have you been now? Oh, okay, I'll see, this ADC will talk with you, come tomorrow. And you find me rushing to the airport in the morning and going to Abuja. We go to Abuja and be like, hey, we're going to Sao Tome and Principe. And we'll go to Sao Tome and Principe. And then you listen to how this man is. Remember when there was a coup? And he was having a meeting with AU members because OAU had been changed to AU. So he was having a meeting with them. And then the coup happened. In the evening, he said he's going to Principe and they should get ready. And then he flew with the military attaché and the Minister for Foreign Affairs. And we all flew, got there, called the military people, we said by tomorrow evening, sort everything out and hand over the power back to the and they, like you're talking to secondary school boys. And we're back to Lagos. We're back to Abuja. It is like he was in charge.
Yeah.
I think the military thing helped a bit.
Yeah, I don't remember a Nigerian leader that wielded that much influence.
Yeah, across the country.
Across the continent.
Yes.
And had that kind of global clout. Certainly not anybody in the post-military era.
None.
Nobody. It's been a big thing, which takes us to other aspects of this conversation. In fact, as we are talking now, there were two questions that I wanted, but let me just ask you, because a whole lot is going on in the corridors of power, and we had talked about, Spotify and all of that, and my head was just like this whole. I laugh when people say, "Who is he? Is he not a comedian?" You're not only the grandfather of comedy and a forerunner, and you're also a social and cultural commentator. There are other questions that I wanted to ask you about, and how you manage to balance out comedy and critique. We'll come back to that. But on some of these issues now, for instance, this whole Akpabio, Natasha, I don't know whether you've had any personal interactions with Natasha, but certainly you have had with Akpabio over the time.
Yeah.
From everything you're hearing, what is, if it came down to, do you even have a side?
Okay, so for me, I had a side up to the point that she then watered down the strong support that I had for her. You know, she did not come out to refute the one that came out and said, "Oh, we're going into the Senate building. He requested to squeeze me, and I allowed him, but he was taking longer than necessary." I want to believe that was planted story, but she had not come out to refute that story either. The other thing is, put a stop to some of all these things, because when you don't put a stop to it, you're encouraging it. From the first time that he was chairman at your wedding, from the first time that it looked like he was making inappropriate passes at you, you tell your husband to call him to order. They were friends, or they're friends. You call him to order and say please, don't, my wife. And if the husband was condoning it, there's an issue. Because, or is it that all this while she was not telling the husband that this is going on?
Yeah, I mean, some would say it's very sensitive and it's hard. It's hard for a woman to tell her husband, especially in those early days, that your friend is making passes at me.
Now, she has also said that there was a time the husband asked her. You know? So what I think is, when it comes to, because then you then have a place like, you then have all kinds of stories coming up, like the Remo story, you know, where he said that she accused him. Luckily for him, he wasn't in town. If he were in town, the story would have been believable. When you then begin to dent a good story that you have, you kill it for other people who have real true stories.
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine who would have been thrown out of his house in the US, in Houston. Luckily, his friend had given him a wall clock that had a camera. Had a hidden camera given the wall clock. And so when the thing was happening and the wife accused him of all of that and called the police on him and they threw him out, the friend now said, "But I dashed you a wall clock that I said the thing had a camera. So if you said it was at the distance and she started the thing and poured hot water on you and slapped you and all of that, and get the camera." So he managed to get to the house and he needed to pick a few things, and she said, "Yes, you have a few minutes to pick the clock, pick the things that he needed to do." By the time he played the content of the
footage,
he was free,
exonerated.
You know, until you have those kind of things, so you then have cases where total falsehood is sold to people. What it does is it just kills other real stories.
Yeah.
And every time somebody hears them, they don't mind.
It muddies the waters.
Exactly.
And legally, they say you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So what the opposition needs to do is to sow just reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
So you are killing your story.
So you're killing the story. You're making it look like, okay, so in that other write-up that came out that said, so as not to cause a scene, I hit his hand. What that phrase there says is that if they were then alone, there would have been no scene created. Are you following me?
I get you.
So because there were others there, you didn't want to create a scene. So if there were no others there, there were no people there, you would have been okay. Those are not the kind of stories we should be hearing now, where you have a serious... And she needs to have better advisors. There are ways to go around these things that they need you to... ECOWAS court won't do... International Senate, whatever, won't do... Because this is purely like... They'll see it as an internal issue. Internal rumblings. When
as political maneuver,
you have major issues as in, look at everything that is happening in the north. right? Soldiers been kidnapped, soldiers been killed, 30 soldiers killed, this one. The state of emergency has not been declared in those places. Nobody's been killed in rivers. State of emergency is declared. But what is happening in some northern states now is enough for state of emergency to be created. So it then makes you wonder what's happening. Amotekun can't arrest anybody, right? Without involving the police. But the Hizbala people, what are they called in the...
Hizbala police or something like
yes.
that.
They can deal with you, put you down on the street, give you 12 strokes of the cane.
Yeah, they are judge, jury, and executioner
at the same time. Are we running two countries here? No. You say, I can't protect myself. Some herdsmen come and run over my farm. I try to protect myself and I'm prosecuted. But they can, so if they can, it's just like they can come there and feed their cows, right? In my farm. The cassava that I worked for and planted and grew for about like 6-7 months can be destroyed. But I can't walk into somebody's shop and take a TV.
End up in jail. It's pretty
straightforward. Now, the other thing that I'm thinking is, I've mentioned this before. The problem of this country is because every other person is depending on the crude oil. That's why some people still want to be governors of states, knowing that if you create new states today, they know they will get funding every month. Now tell them to generate internal revenue and pay 20 or 30% to federal government and see if they will survive. Not many people will decide to be governors because they know that if you then decide to be governor, you're going to be working.
Yeah, you have to work.
You have to work to generate the revenue. So Lagos will keep its own revenue. Rivers State will keep its own revenue. Bayelsa will keep its own revenue. Delta will keep its own revenue. You then have to generate your own revenue. And from what you generate, you pay to the center. The center can then begin to do things, things for the country.
You know, I sat here with Frank Edoho, and one of the things we talked about,
brilliant mind,
that caused quite a stir on social media. I asked him simply, will you relocate? Do you leave the country? And he shared his thoughts. And while some praised him, others said, I don't know. I was wondering what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Your thoughts on where this country is headed and what you would tell young people. Maybe I should phrase it differently rather than ask you whether you would relocate. If you would relocate, you would have relocated a long time ago.
The question sits home with me. So for me, the reason for relocation most times is driven by the disappointment people feel towards the country, the economy, the government, and the people in it. So, and I have very clear examples of it. I have a guy who was an AGM in a bank on the island. He had 3 cars. The one that the office gave him, his personal car, the one he bought for the house. And so the one he bought for the house is the one they used to drop the kids. And then the one that is his own car is the one madam drives around once in a while. And then he had a driver for his own. So those are the 3 cars. The office car, the office takes care of it. Fuel, driver, take care of it. So he has to take care of 2 cars by himself. Now, those 2 cars are to take his 3 children to school. 2 were going to one school, the other one was going to a second school. Now, so the driver would take 2 people to one school and madam would take the other one to the other school. Every month, he was spending 130,000 naira for fuel. Every month here, 130,000 naira for fuel because the place was not too far from. And then at home, he was doing about like ₦1 million on diesel to provide electricity because his children can't come from school and not have electricity in the house. Right? Now, the wife had a small bakery business at the back, so confectionery at the back. And so she will need electricity to do all of those. Now, food for the children was very important. Himself, his drivers, the wife, and some siblings that were living with them. Security was also very important. He can't be the one that comes to open the gate all the time. And knowing that you have those kind of children, you have to have somebody who closes the gate, opens the gate, and turns the generator on, turns it off when there's electricity. Education was expensive. These children the first two were below 12. The other one was about like 13 or so, or 14. Mention security. House rent was a given. You have to pay the house rent every year. Now, mortgages are not something that we're used to here. I think it's just beginning to grow on us. Some parts in the West, you pay your rent weekly. As you work, you pay. Sometimes you don't have about like 2-3 weeks. When you then get money, you then pay. Or you have a social security that then takes care of you and your accommodation. Savings. Education. When he totaled all of this, he was always running into, everything was running into about 22-23 million naira every term.
Which was essentially every quarter.
Basic. 23-25 million naira every quarter. And he then said, if I convert this, can I be doing it as mortgage to a house that I have overseas? And if he does that, would he be still paying school fees? For the two children, he may not be paying school fees. And the way it is that...
to public school?
Yeah, they go to public school. And then there, the school buses will pick and drop them. And if the school buses don't pick and drop them, the distance to school is always far from
usually walkable.
It's walkable. Now, what is the security for children? Would anybody kidnap 2 of his children there and ask him to come and pay money? No. When the children graduate, what are the chances that they will find work there? And what are the chances that they will find work here? Now, if he were there...
certainly higher on both.
Exactly.
Both fronts.
So, if he's there on the other side, would he be employing a driver, 2 drivers, or 3 drivers, one for his wife, one for the children, one for himself, and be paying for gate man, security, washman, that one? Would he be doing all of that? No. So most times when people then do all of those calculations, they come to the point where they say, let's give it a shot. Now, it is true that sometimes when you are in Nigeria, the chances and opportunities that come to you to make a lot of money increases. Some of them don't even pay taxes.
Anything can change for you at any time.
You can just be named the commissioner for finance in one this thing, and your economic trajectory has changed. Now, will that happen overseas? No. Will somebody kidnap your children overseas and be demanding for one thing and they can't find the people? No. Will the police stop you at night and the chances of you having an altercation with them arise overseas if you are not living right? Yes, but if you're living right, you don't have that kind of stress. Would you get a call one day and say, oh, your son was carrying dreadlocks and they've picked him up and said you should come and bail him? Or somebody hit your car and ran off, and the person who hit your car can't be found. And so the cost that you had not planned to spend on your vehicle, you then have to spend it. A house help runs away with all your jewelry and phone and cash. Can't be found. Why? Because there's no database in this country. 250,000 people sign a petition. No thumbprints to verify who and who signed the petition. Meanwhile, when there was election, nearly less than 70,000 people were even registered for that election. But when it's time for a recall, 250,000 came from nowhere. In a place where you were even planning to trick some people to come and sign a petition without their knowing that that was what they wanted to come and sign. If you had those 250,000 people, did you need to trick anybody? Now, people have been clamoring for elections. As far back at the time of Jesus, Bethlehem, it was an annual thing to go and be counted. Every year. They were not this much then, but they still went to get counted because they knew the Jews were producing like rabbits. Now, the last election that you had in 2005 or 6 or thereabout was not even conclusive, because when you did it, you came up with 270 something.
You mean population
census, yes.
Yeah.
And when the numbers started being disputed, the people were saying that they did not come to our street. They came to our street, they counted 2 first houses, they didn't come back to count the rest houses. The numbers were reduced to the 220 that would then banded around for a while. Why do you not have a census? So without a census, it means that you've been budgeting blindly, because the census is what tells you how many people to do this for, how many people to do that for, what needs this, what area needs this, what area needs that. Erosion and ecological problems that this country has been having, desertification, have been getting funding. How many trees have been planted in those places that had these? So all of these myriads of problems, right, are enough for anybody to decide, let me take a chance. Because ọmọ là ń jà fún. Kọ́mọ lè jà fún wa. You fight to raise the child well, so that when the child has grown, the child then fights to raise you well. What is happening now is that children get to 40, and the parents who raised them to have them take care of them are still taking care of them at 40.
Sad commentary, but true.
Exactly. So now you then have a case of when these children then go out of the country to live overseas, they see that everything works. You don't need prayers. You don't need to do, what's that midnight thing that they do? You go to pray.
Vigil.
Night vigil over electricity. You don't need night vigil over security. You don't need night vigil over road accidents. You see a banner somewhere, special vigil against accidents, road accidents. No. Because the society is structured and everything works well. So even the people who travel will tell you that the things they used to pray about here, they don't pray about them anymore there. Today we pray against any armed robbers that will attack us in the night, armed robbers that will come to our estate. Father Lord, protect this house with your blood. But the time you're supposed to be doing that night vigil, you are sleeping and living well. So some of those inform anybody concluding that it is best to Japa. Now, if you then have any source of livelihood that keeps you above board, and so you don't get drowned by any of all these things that I've listed, sometimes it's easy to then say, why travel? A politician that gets 5,000 shared to him for Salah, $5,000 shared to him for Salah, will not think of jackpotting to do what? Will somebody in Canada call him and say, you know, Salah is coming, take $5,000, even if you are a congressman? You know, so the things that are permissible here that makes us feel comfortable, for those who enjoy it, none of them will see anybody who is traveling out as being patriotic. But in truth and reality, it's that there are reasons for people to do that. The Jews didn't go to Egypt because they felt very happy with Egypt, because they had issues here. And Joseph, in his own wisdom, had taken care of famine And so when there was famine across the world, as it was at that time, Egypt had food.
It became the confluence.
And so everybody went there. Now, you're now also thinking that sometimes you hear a case of missing parcel. Somebody sends something from Kaduna and it comes through the box, and when it gets to you, it has been tampered with. And when you now try to pursue it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, you can't get it back. You just give up and go buy another one. But overseas, that can happen. There's tracking that says, oh, it's gotten to Ikeja. It's on its way to Ilupeju. It's gotten to Coca Street. It's now on Coca Street. So if it gets missing between that Ilupeju and Coca Street, you ask, between here and here, who took the parcel? But here, something can go missing and you never find it. You have a case of people calling for ransom and the people not being able to be tracked. You can't track them. But overseas, they can track some of all these people and find them. My phone was missing. They told me to go to one office on Awolowo Road. I went there. I had my other phone because it was registered on Google, and I said, this is the phone here. And they told me, we can't go there. I said, but this is saying that the phone is, he said, we can't go there to track it.
It's happened to me before. There's a place I was told the police station was just on one side of Lekki, and we went to the police station to call them over something on the other side of Lekki. And the police asked us, you people, where did you find the liver to go there? Even we won't go there.
See. So it's there was a time we were coming back from Ibadan, myself, Omobaba, and Benga, and we drove and we heard apparently there was a truck that was coming behind us that was having issues with its valve and plugs. And you know that thing that will be shooting like real guns,
like rapid gunfire.
We sped off, drove to the next checkpoint. I said, we think that the vehicle coming has armed robbers. They jumped in their vehicle
and sped in the opposite direction.
They went ahead with us like they are coming from this side. And we thought they were jumping in and going to reverse. To go. They drove with us, and I was like, hey, God. Sometimes too, it is, you heard of people who call for backup and say, oh, we're being attacked, there are robbers here. They say, you guys just stay calm, don't do anything, and don't provoke them. Just we'll get back to you. See, nothing like stay on the line. We're sending people down now. No. There was a time that something was raining in this country, million boys. They would just go to an estate, like 30, 40 boys will ransack an estate and go from house to house.
In this Lagos?
Yes, so
Ikorodu?
Bagada, Ikorodu area. And they just do it. Like, come on. You've heard cases of bank robberies. They'll go to the bank, rob, and get away. In this day and age of helicopters. Once you call to say, we are being robbed in this bank, you put your helicopters in the skies. Let me see where they will run to.
I'm just thinking, are you painting your thoughts? Because I know your gut feeling is very strong. Is it a case of cautious optimism, or is it one of near doom?
Okay, no. So for me, you know, that's why I said, I mentioned it. I said, for those of us who are a bit comfortable and above the threshold of poverty, so there's no middleman anymore. So it's either you're poor or you're comfortable.
Yeah, the middle class is gone.
It's gone. So it's either you're poor or you're comfortable. So for those of us who are comfortable, it's easy for us to provide the services that the poor can provide. And so anybody that is poor, that knows that for me to earn or walk into that privileged class, it will take a while. The cost of moving to that place is too expensive. Let me try Japa, if that is cheaper. And when they then try, they actually can then live the life of these people who are privileged without moving into that class. That's why people travel.
can understand. You have about what, 3 or 4 kids abroad?
3. 4 now, yeah, 4.
4.
So the thing, my twins, they're in Canada. My 2 girls are in the UK.
How many children do you have, Alibaba?
You know, they say they don't count, but for now 8.
For now 8. That's when we add the triplets.
The triplets. But the triplets retirement plan. Okay.
How old are they now?
A year. What's today? So it's 24th.
No, today's not 24th. So what's wrong with 2 old men sitting down here? I think it's probably the 27th or so. 8? 26. 26.
26? Okay. So
it don't pass.
No. So no, they are a year and 3 months now.
Okay.
24th of January. So a year, and so they came because my wife had 2 daughters, and so she said she wanted a boy, just a boy, especially when the house was just empty.
How did you go from a boy to 3 boys?
There was a case of let's just make them 2, in case the process of...
You guys went for in vitro.
Yes, and
just as a security.
Yeah, so just in case, just in
case. Yeah.
And then one of the sacks split 2.
So you have a case where you have both. You have 2 eggs, and then one of the
eggs then decides to be
splits.
So it's like God saying, "Oh, okay, you want to tell me how to do this thing? Okay, we'll show you." And so we have 3 lovely boys, different characterization, and then the child psychologist calls us and says, "I think you should introduce these children to school quickly, because what happens with multiple births is that when they get so integrated amongst the 3 of them, they find external children who are outside their own clique. They see them as threats and begin to relate with them differently. So it's best to begin to introduce them to other kids, so that they can relate."
I mean, you know, somebody would say, "Why have 8 children in this?" Yeah, I can understand that. You know, you were just looking for one, or you were probably thinking of this.
Okay, so
I know that Madam wanted
the multiple beds. So the 2 boys were twins, so that's counted as 1.
Okay,
and these 3 boys were triplets. It's counted as 1.
So you seem to have a problem with having boys, having one boy. Have you ever had just one solitary boy?
No. So the way it is now, maybe the next one will be 4.
Next one?
I don't know. Because I didn't know 16 years ago that triplets were going to come out of Jerusalem again.
Yeah, and you won't consider vasectomy.
No. So I can't. No, I don't mind. But they said something about when you do vasectomy, you then begin to put on weight. All right.
Yeah.
And so, but it has a side effect. All right. But just think about it. What if I had done vasectomy 16 years ago?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay. But as I hear, the best way to do it is, if you want to do vasectomy, just keep some eggs.
Yeah.
And then
in the cooler somewhere.
I need to ask this question. So it's not for you, but for people to brood over. The Muslims are having 4 wives, having multiple children. The Christians are having 1 child now, or 2. Some are even deciding not to even have. Like your Reverend Fathers are not having. Okay. So there are more and more in the North, in the Muslim and the Islam religion, and less in the Christian religion. What number is increasing? You find that, I don't know if you've noticed, churches are closing in the West. Some churches are now being turned to exhibition centers. Some Anglican churches overseas are reducing. Only the Pentecostal churches are growing in numbers, but the traditional Anglican, Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, and all those churches are reducing in numbers because those churches too are having less and less children come to the church. But mosques are growing. And this is not about comparing religions, but it's just comparing practices. You then have a Muslim family where somebody can marry 4, divorce 2, marry 2 again. And all the 2 wives that have just been married will want to have their own children. And after a while, you then complain about the dwindling manpower in the country, not forgetting on education of the populace. On education of the populace is even worse. About 30% of most people who were born in the South can't get employment because they're unemployable. We're not even talking about find work. When there is work, they can't work because they were not trained, first of all. Do you think the Amajiris will know what...
You mean the North?
The North, not even the North and South. I'm talking about it. Even in the South, the numbers are just less in the South because the breeding process in the North, the North is larger than the one in the South. You're a sport commentator. You've gone to watch some matches in Kaduna stadiums. Kano pillars playing. They sit even on the lights.
It's a different world there. Totally different.
You can't charge gate fee.
Yeah. If you know what's good for you.
And you can't beat their team if you know what's good for you again.
I remember when Kano Pillars won the league back to back to back. I was like, and there was television everywhere else. DSTV was covering, but at that time they couldn't even go to Kano to cover the games.
Cover what?
So
there was one, the guy held the ball and the referee was running with him, said, don't score. The ref.
I beg, for your sake and mine.
The ref was saying, don't score, and was running with him. And, was like, don't score. And then, and the boy played it just out of touch. And one of the photographers was actually laughing. He wasn't taking pictures, but laughing. He was behind the post and was laughing that he was recording. And his camera had this thing that you could pick from a distance. You could pick what the ref was saying. There's a sensor on the camera that you could pick and when he went back and was playing it, he was doubled up in laughter.
If you don't want them to beat me,
he say if you don't score. But if people are watching him, you will see him
gesticulating.
Yes, come on. Because it was like he thought he was offside, but he wasn't offside. And so the man was like, so he put it, he didn't score. And later in the evening, of course, Kano Pillar won with 3 goals. The team were just having drinks and everything. So the ref later saw them at the airport and told him, said, so you wanted to score? Would you be here?
They fear.
Would you be here boarding a flight back to...
If you had scored that goal.
And it was a matter of, if those people scored even 1, the goal difference would have made Kano Pillars lose. So you... Then you have a case of now this is really serious. You have a case of saying that if you run for presidency, you can't have a form for Senate. If you had attempted to become a president, you must have contested. So you bought the form and contested. There's no way you could also have contested for Senate. But the former Senate president and the present Senate president ran for presidency. They didn't get the presidential ticket. They won as Senate president, as senators to come back to the Senate. So when laws are turned on its head, the question of why are people jackparing is just begs the question.
You recommend that people should have more children. I mean, Elon Musk's Elon Musk's belief.
That one can have 10 million.
Yeah, he
He's a
believes
different-
that the real threat humanity faces not overpopulation, that it's underpopulation.
and the right kind of children.
Yeah, well, from what you are saying now,
Yes.
the North is having the population.
Yeah.
You
don't. Okay, so let me.
You have 8.
Yes.
But I do know that you can afford to take your foundation. I think you and Madame something. Is it Popul? What's that foundation?
Popul Foundation that takes care of children.
Yeah.
Yes.
Over 100 kids.
We take care of over 100 children. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Now, which was what Madame argued when I was telling Madame, well, okay. And she said, wow, okay. I said, economy is so. I said, economy is so hard, but you're paying school fees for over 120 children. So 1 more, 2 more will be a problem for you. No, it will not. Now, every time you see a child or a man or a woman in a wheelchair and somebody is pushing that wheelchair to beg for alms, that's -2. Right? And if the person in that wheelchair now has 2, 3 children, that's +4 that are dependent on the society. And every time a child that is 5 is homeless, uneducated, not catered for, and not trained to pick up any kind of job, and is unemployable, by the time he turns 5, turns 10, turns 15, he becomes a double liability on the society. So what it means is those children will become liabilities for the country, first to perform their civic duties. Because first of all, the person does not even have the civic orientation to know who to vote for. So their minds are driven and controlled by what they can have now. And you are putting a voter's card in the hands of that person. So the politicians know that those are the children that they can use. I just heard somebody not too long ago say something about why Tinubu is distributing things in the north. That is an insult to the northerners. And I asked a question. If those northerners that he's distributing rice and whatever items to got those, he can't give anything to them. So there must be a vacuum. It means that those people did not get those. You can't tell somebody, why are you crying when you were the one beating the child? So if those northern governors had sorted all those things out, this will not be an issue. Which is why some of the northern governors are fighting to make sure that the regional drive by certain sectors of the society, of the country, work. When you now say, let each state generate their funds and take care of themselves. Some of the northern states know that they can't survive it. Meanwhile, they have enough to run their state and become Dubai. Dakar race, the Dakar race in Senegal, they don't have as much land.
Rally.
The Dakar rally, they don't have as much land as we have in the north. Jos is bigger than them. Jos, the state of Jos is bigger than them. Not to talk of Bauchi. So if you want a place that you can do a Dakar kind of rally, all the northern states will have desert land that you could use for that kind of competition. Whether it's camel race, whether it's a bike race, whether it's car racing or anything, 4x4 races. In the north, you have spaces to do those things.
It's not being utilized.
At all. Because somebody is generating money and handing it to you. You don't want to do anything. There was a story that somebody shared one time. And he said, it's like a man who has 5 wives. 2 of the wives are working. One is a civil servant, one is a medical doctor. But when they make their monies, they give it to the man and he shares to all the other 5 wives, or the other 3 wives. So he gives the first wife who's a doctor, gives the other one who's a lawyer, just shares the money. And then the ones that's a doctor and the one that is a lawyer know that they hardly have time. So they are very busy. So they don't have more than 2, 3 children. 2 children for the lawyer, 2 children for the doctor, because they are busy working. Then the 3 wives who are full-time housewives have 6, 7, 8. So whatever these 2 women bring is what the father will collect and share around the 5 women. So if the 2 women now decide that, okay, we will take care of our children by ourselves. We'll give you anything we want to give to you so you can share to the other 3 women and their children. What kind of life do you think those 3 children will live? Those 3 wives will live? That's what explains this whole federalism that we have. Now, every time the 2 wives try to say, every time we make our salary of 400,000, we give you the 800,000. Then you take the 800,000 and share 100 to everybody. And then keep 300 to yourself to do anything that you want to do. What you've done is you've taken 300 from our monies and shared to the people who are not working. So what you need to do is, let us give you 100. Let's keep 300 to ourselves and use it to take off our children. So you don't have 200. So you share the 200 amongst the 3 people and yourself, and see whether many people will be wanting to be your wives.
This wahala is as old as time. I still remember all that 13% derivation. It's been going on forever. Do you hold any opinion on the current government in this country?
Yeah, my belief is that the rot, we saw it coming. The time that this country would have had a major turnaround was the SS crude time, where crude oil was selling for as high as $140 per barrel. And you already were budgeting your financial year on $40 per barrel. Sometimes you push it to $50 per barrel of crude. So you now had $90 extra. And then Jonathan government said they were going to then set up an SS crude account so that the money can be used to develop the country. And all 36 state governors went to court. You remember the story?
I remember.
They went to court and said the money must be shared. And of course, these governors that were fighting at the time that the money should be shared were all the governors who were on their last lap of governance. They had done their 8 years. A lot of them were coming out. And so for them, it was like, why wait for...
Nigeria's automatic 8 years unless you've offended your godfather.
Exactly. So you've done 8 years. And then they are telling you that the monies that you can share now as your retirement, as your as your state funds should be kept for another government that is coming. And they went to court and they got the money shared. And no development came out of it. Do you know what $90 per barrel extra excess crude would have done for this country? And there was no reason why you should be owing any money again. But instead, we now had crude for cash exchange, where we now said, okay, borrow us some money extra. We'll give you the crude after. And those people are looking at it like, okay, you want to give us crude now at $40 per barrel. We'll pay you.
Upfront.
We'll pay you upfront. But if crude now goes to $90 per barrel, you can't.
Change.
It doesn't change. You still give us our crude. And then they will then sell that crude at the going rates.
At the market rates.
And instead of you to know that that would be a problem and begin to repair your refineries at the time, you're not behaving like somebody who has a shop that sells ingredients, rice, beans, and all of that stuff. But you send your children to a restaurant across the road that comes to buy the rice and beans from you. So in the morning, you wake your children up and say, hey, you want to eat? Say yes. Okay, go to that woman that comes to buy rice from us to go and buy rice. So they go and buy cooked rice and bring back and everybody eat. Meanwhile, you have a kitchen that is a refinery to turn this rice to edibles that your children can eat. Then one of the wives now says, let me even set up a kitchen and begin to cook this food. So that instead of you people to be going across to go and buy this thing. You now say, you cannot be buying this rice in this house. You have to go and buy rice from outside to prepare, because this rice that is here, you are owing that woman for 4 months, and you have to continue to give her ingredients. That's the mess that we're in. So it is not this government. This government met the president, and in trying to resolve it, was the first thing that they did. The subsidy is gone. But of course, that will jack up prices. It will jack up prices because you are still importing and you don't have any way to reduce this. So Dangote is a welcome idea.
So why does it seem like they are putting obstacles,
You still have to give, the other woman her rice now. You have to give her uncooked rice and beans. You have to give it to her. So if Dangote now starts giving you this stress, it's all for cash. So it is a big problem.
It's a mess.
And when you then found out that Dangote had gone to this extent to do this thing, you are now saying, okay, your refineries, you hurriedly put together some things to say, your refineries are working. After a while, we're not hearing that the refineries are working. And the rumor was that looks like those refineries were actually not working. They just managed to knock some things together just to make it look like, why does Dangote feel like he's special? Of course he's special. Now he has said he can buy crude from anywhere and still sell to the whole of Africa, because the transportation of crude, of a product, finished product from Nigeria to Ghana, Benin, and all those places will be cheaper than the cost of freighting or shipping any finished product from anywhere else.
The West.
From anywhere else. Boa Group is also trying to finish their own refineries. When they finish their own refineries, they will be buying. And in all of this, electric cars are coming. You are still fighting
China is
over
flooding
this.
everywhere. They just beat Tesla for the first time
Exactly.
in terms of revenues.
And if that is happening in a bit, it will not be a case of drink your crude. How many people have come to Nigeria to say we want to buy coal? Enugu still has coal. But just like what is happening to crude now, that's what will happen very soon. We will have to find a way to use that crude. Where am I fishing? Perfume, be ikbara or grease or something. You know?
Do you feel like Tinubu is heading somewhere?
Yeah. But he needs to carry a lot of people along. And I think he needs to also change some advisors. Some people are not advising him properly. I think so. I have like 3 of his ministers that are my paddies, and we relate very well. I'd asked one once, I said, is it true that there are helicopters coming here to take gold and precious stones and flying out? I said, yes.
More and more to China now.
And that they actually believe that it is one reason for the unrest in the north. Because when you make that place ungovernable, not many administrative policies can work in the place. And that's an issue. Because a box of precious stone is more than 2 million barrels of crude oil. Oh, by the way, do you notice that when we do events, we'll say premium is you do platinum, gold, silver, and this. Gold is more expensive than platinum now. Gold is more expensive than platinum. It's selling for $20,000 per cubic something. And you then look at it and you're like, it was at a record high, gold. But we have it.
Up north and
up north.
abundance.
Now, there was a time in the north that fabrics were being bought from here. They tell the fabric companies in the north how much fabric they need, and they bundle them and take overseas. Where are the cotton farms? Where are the irrigations? I asked a question one time. China built the largest water transportation channel that could transport water from a place like Cameroon to Ghana, the distance of Cameroon to Ghana. They built a water transportation system like that. We can't build water transportation from the Niger Delta to the north. Even when you already have right of way. Because where you put your refinery, your crude oil pipelines, and moved crude to Kaduna, all you just need to do is on top of it, just put water boreholes, pipelines, and lay the water from the Atlantic all the way to the north, and put desalination points all across, and begin to milk salt from the water and sell that too. But you see, nobody's looking at that. Census, nobody's looking at that. Your ranching is a total industry that can take care of the north. From the skin to the bones to the cavalry to the horns, because they use them to make buttons.
Even the hoofs.
The hoofs, all of those. You have leather. You have. There was a friend of mine who said he wore one bracelet, and I said, "Oh, this is really lovely." He said it was made, that the ivory I was seeing on his hand was made from cow teeth. It was really nice. I loved it. He said it was made from cow teeth, and that they polished it really properly. And when you see it, you would not think that it was. But it's beautiful. It's ivory. So, ranching is one thing that could give us a lot of money. Don't forget, from the Metisani time till now, the northern herdsmen have always been having issues, because as the desert encroaches, they have to move lower to greener pastures. And in moving lower to greener pastures, they'll be running into people's farms. Why not just build a ranch? Since this time they've been talking about build the ranches, create farmlands where irrigation is happening, and you're growing grass to feed these cows. That's why Akpobome is taking 4 days to chew, because the cow is trekking from Sokoto to come and be sold in Port Harcourt. The ones that have money will put their cows on trailers and ship them and drive them all the way to the south. Then the ones that don't have money will lead the cows all the way, because it's cheaper. And they'll still want to sell it the same price the person that put his cow on a tipper, on a trailer, is selling it. There's a lot that has to be done to just get this country back. It has to be done.
We've been saying these things forever.
We'll continue to say them.
So just taking a look at your crystal ball, is Nigeria in trouble?
Yeah, we've been in trouble since. Let me tell you when we were in trouble. There was the Obafemi, or what's his name? There was a minister of finance, state minister of finance. Do you remember that said Nigeria is broke?
Yeah, remember.
And they removed him for saying Nigeria was broke. Since that time till now, the man's predictions were right. The man said Nigeria is broke because at that time, the crude for cash had been done. Do you get?
I get you. So the policies we are seeing now
are just reactionary.
But are they making things worse or better?
You see, if somebody has a saw that is beginning to look like it will claim the leg, it's not the time to tell the person jogging is good, drinking water is good for you. You need to begin to hope more. What you need to do is begin to treat that leg. And to treat that leg, you need to give the person injections and things to make the leg heal. What are the things that this country needs? Employment and education. We do not have a trained populace that could take on some of the jobs that some people are coming from other countries to do. Or most of all our manufacturing plants that were folding up, they're folding up because they can't even compete with the products that the foreign companies are bringing. Obasanjo did something. He gave a 2-year warning to all the people selling juice that you must come, and instead of bringing concentrates, instead of coming here with the already made juice, and they say, bring your concentrates here and do your packaging of your drinks here in Nigeria. By the time the 2 years was about to lapse, they started calling him names. Oh, that Obasanjo Farms wants to start making juice. That's why he's bringing this policy. They want one thing. A lot of them went to court. They did that. Obasanjo didn't move. Just Juice, Five Alive, Dr. Simon, a lot of juice companies moved out. But after a year or two, when Five Alive saw how much money they were losing, they came back and started doing what he said they should do. Because that is creating employment for people. But what was happening is when you then bring the juice already packed, then you've turned us into distributors. So we don't have a role in the process of production. That process of production feeds families.
Finally, and this is just a finally, I don't know whether you saw this report. I'm worried about us men because you are a very a family man. Did you see the report that said about over 600 billion naira was spent by Lagos men on sex workers?
Yeah.
Last year. I don't know. I know you'll probably have something cheeky to say about it, but the question is, who are the people who are spending?
Okay, so what happens?
Kind of money.
So what happens most times is that sex has been on sale for so long.
Yeah.
From the time of Adam till now, sex has been on sale. And the way men respond to sex is for 3 reasons: procreation, prove manhood, and for pleasure. Those are the 3 ways of it. So when you say for pleasure, is let me just do it. It's like a recreation. It's like going to play golf, right? For status, it's this lady, I want to show her that I have money. That's not about pleasure. It's just you know that I have money. And then the other one is procreation. You sleep with her so that you can have children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of Nigeria and Lagos, as you specifically said, there are so many ladies who have seen that there is a growing number of men who are attracted to the honeypot and will pay anything for the honeypot. And these ladies know that in doing that, they can make a lot of money to make their life different. I'll give you an example. So this man sells his plot of land because the daughter says she wants to go to Canada and school, and managed to raise about like 4.7 million naira. He gives the 7-point-something million naira to the girl. The girl comes to Lagos and goes to do BBL, and disappears for about like 3-4 months. Within that time that she disappeared, father and everybody were trying to reach her. The father believes the child is in Canada. She gets a foreign number and chats WhatsApp with the father and sends him pictures and all the things, Canada pictures. The first time she had finished with her BBL and she launches the BBM, she goes to Asaba with a guy and she gets $10,000. She comes back to Lagos. She buys a car. She's living large. Or do you don't understand that there was somebody who wanted to get a Lamborghini?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So wait. So she gets a car. She hustles a bit, flies to Doha because at the time Dubai was closed. Flies to Doha, comes back with about $20,000. She rents a house in Lekki. She's living well. Her friends see her. Of course, it's a precedent and it's something they can. It's enviable, and it's something they can copy. It moves them from that. You were here when we discussed and I said there's a line: poverty and the well-to-do. You can be well-to-do, but you're on this side. You can be poor and you can be going further down, but there's no middle class anymore. So, if this bomb can get them across that line to this other side, why not? Some of the people who have become motivational speakers now that are talking to the girls who live well, live right, some of them did the same thing. Yes, they did the same thing. And now that they are now in the evening of their own life, they are now looking back to the girls and telling the girls, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, which was why I made that comment then when Obi Kubana was burying his mom and girls trooped to his village and people were saying, how can these girls be throwing themselves? You know, the girls were swimming in the pool and people were throwing money in the pool, dollars. And how can these girls be putting themselves down? One of the people that wrote that the girls were putting themselves down was dating a former military man at the time that the military man was governor. And the wealth that she has and is living on was from that kind of thing. So you see, it is not now. It's just that now people are beginning to put figures and numbers to it. People have been living like that since. I believe that those figures as listed for Lagos could even be higher. The property business, like I told you when we were talking about properties in Lagos, some of these properties are bought by these people for these girls. And these girls know that if it were not for that, they couldn't afford it. They're hardworking ones. One very revered and successful actress, one of our aunties, told me one time, Ali, do you think I can't afford a G-Wagon? I said, Auntie, you should afford a G-Wagon. But you can't afford a G-Wagon because you will not do what some other people do. She said, true. Then there's somebody that came to her and said, I want to be in this industry, same industry with you, and came. After 2 movies, was driving a Range Rover. The person that produced the movie that she acted in does not own a Range Rover. How much did you pay her for her role in the 2 movies to afford a Range Rover? But you see, these are some of the things that need to be mentioned. During the Fashola time, I did an interview one time and I mentioned when Fashola was in power, we worked as a team to synchronize and crystallize the cost of the sector at the time. So we did accommodation, venue rentals, printing. People don't know that that's a very big industry. Printing of IVs, printing
a very
of
old industry.
Printing of IVs, printing of wrappers, printing of gift items, and all of that. Huge industry. And we totaled all of that stuff. When we mentioned that that amount of 6 billion or so was spent every weekend in Lagos, some people argued that it's not possible. Until Fashola then said it. Because he was the one in power at the time that we did the review. the survey, sorry. We did the survey. He was the one that was in power. And so he knows. And he would have followed the trajectory till the point where he now can say, okay, let's escalate this cost at this point now. None of those things are far from the truth. Every weekend, all guest houses in Lagos, on Lagos Island, Victoria Island, even some parts of the mainland, are fully booked. People come into Lagos on Fridays, take up all those places and leave on Monday. Even people who are in the neighboring state of Ogun still come to do the same thing. There are students who leave their school campuses to come and do the same thing in Lagos, just to come be part of that economy, as we put it.
What an economy. What do you say to the 16-year-old struggling boy now who's looking at it like, okay, where does it leave me? Where does it leave the boys?
You see, what happens most times is the traditional way of making it expires. The traditional way of making it back in the days was go to school, graduate, get a job, and you're on your way to success.
It's expired now.
It's expired. It's expired. Let me tell you why. You now have a case of people who even have masters and PhD, jobless. There are still some courses that people are still taking in some schools now. You are reading that course, you know you cannot become a millionaire from that course. You're just going there to get an education. An education does not guarantee your success. It guarantees that you will be educated. Sometimes even the quality of education has to be questioned. Because I've said that I wanted to employ PAs at the time, executive assistants at the time, and I told people to come. I put them in my library, and they were working. Each person, when they come, go to the library, go and write something about yourself for me. And this guy was on the phone asking somebody what he should write about himself. And I was watching him on CCTV. And he had a 2-1. Which is why when JAMB saw how bad it was, insisted on doing post-JAMB exams.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I did the exams, I had 234. At the time, I had 242. I still didn't get into law. But these days, somebody has 128. And he's getting admission letter. And you're wondering, how? Back in the days, if there are 32 people in a class, if 14 of them are the ones that are qualified, they'll promote them. The rest 28 people will repeat. You will repeat me.
So,
The rest-
education,
the rest 18 people
get
will
an
repeat.
education, secure your life. That has
No, that has evaporated. It has evaporated.
So young people.
So young people now have to think of different ways of making a living. For instance, there was a time, the fact that you read shorthand and you were good at typewriting,
you were secure.
you were secure, you knew in fact, before you finish this, some of the teachers in the school would tell you that the headmaster would like to employ you. Or the principal in the school would like to employ you because you could type, you could write shorthand.
Yeah.
You were bound to be a secretary to one big man.
Yeah. And many of them went on to become big themselves.
Yes. Back in the days, the fact that you spoke Latin. My dad did classics, and so sometimes he wants to say something, he will quote. I said, Daddy, how many places are you? And then my dad got his PhD at the age of 78. Went to Unilag, read philosophy. He was reading geography before, switched from geography to philosophy. He was reading geography and regional planning. He switched from there to philosophy. He was the 2IC Nigerian Army Education Corps in Ojo Cantonment. He wanted me to go to NDA. I made sure I failed the exam. Now, so the point I'm trying to make is the dynamics of education have changed. The dynamics of employment have changed. The preparation of people for employability has also changed. Now, you find that even for movie roles, things change. The occupational progression every time. Back in the day, somebody is a great actor, you want to see the person in the movie. Now, if the person has great following on Instagram, chances of the person getting more movie roles than you that is a qualified thespian are very high.
High. They'll clearly get an opportunity to be a broadcaster.
Exactly. OAP. No, not broadcaster. Not broadcaster. OAP. Not broadcasters, please.
You're right. OAP.
OAP. Now you sit in a place and the people are planning to have a movie and they say, okay, we need 7 characters, and that's okay. Put this person's name. Put this person's name. Say, put Norbert Young. We say, how many followers does he have?
Yeah.
Say Norbert Young, maybe like 150,000. Okay, what about this guy? He said 3.5 million. Said, if we make the movie and he pushes with his influence, we'll get more sales. Let's leave Norbert Young. Let's use this young actor. They use the young actor. And of course, people will respond to the young actor because they will see more of the movie promo on his page and will be driven to go and see it. And then when it is time to do the movie premiere, he will come in very flashy outfits and everything, and girls will come take pictures with him, send pictures, and he can go from one cinema to the other. He can post these things, dress well, appear at this event and the other event, and people will be like, that's that boy that did that movie. Your movie sells. Return on investment, you spent 110 million. He alone has brought you about like 10-15 million from his followership. When you want to shoot another movie, you will still use the same method. All right?
Understandable. We have to go now. My producer wants us to go, but he also wants me to ask you this last question. DNA testing and all the stories surrounding them. We know all the stories.
Okay, so DNA or failure to do DNA can lead to theft of lineage. One. The second thing is that it could lead to death. I'm going to explain all of them. It could also damage relationships. There are cases where the victims of DNA have become suicidal or frustrated in life and totally just unforgiving. So this guy married to this woman, had 3 kids. Was it 3 kids? 4 kids. It would have been 5, 1 died. And because he is an American guy and his mother is American, so he has an American passport, but didn't really renew the passport since that time because he didn't want to travel. Half-caste boy, fine boy. He lived in Victoria Island, off Ologun Agbaji. And he then decided when the children were growing up and he was seeing how this whole place was like, the wife said, let's just take these children to America. This one likes to play basketball. This one likes to do this. Let them go there. And the guy applies. During Walter Carrington, the one that married that Nigerian lady, there was one guy that looked like Jesse Jackson that was the ambassador. I'm trying to remember. He used to come to Nigeria, married a Nigerian lady, Arishe. Okay. And within that time, my friend who passed, Efere, was his lawyer. And they go to do tests. Only the first one was his child.
Was his own.
All the other 3 were not his. And so when they did the tests, the American embassy told him that these ones are not yours. This one, of course, this one's passport is ready. So he got back and told, they said you can try an alternative. So that's the one that they did. So let's go and try. And they went. It was 99.9% not the father of the other three. And in the case of the first one, 99.9% the father of that one. Now, think about it. If it's about a royal family, you can change the trajectory of that family. Like the case of the gods are not to blame. When you bring a child that is not of the blood ancestry into the family, that can change it. Now, in the case of a man, if the man brings a child from outside, you already know that it's not yours. Mm-hmm. But in the case of the woman, you can pretend that it's a man's own unless you say so. And so some women can be trickish enough to make sure that the person that they date looks exactly like their husband. If the husband is tall, they get a tall guy. Broad shoulders, they get broad shoulders. If he has bow legs, they make sure the person they are dating has bow legs.
What an investment.
No.
You're so invested that you look for somebody to...
Because before a woman does one thing, she's thought about it. Look at the story of Moses. See the detail that Moses' mother went through to make sure that she knew the woman was going there to have a bath. Mm-hmm. She knew the woman would not go there to have a bath if the water was not fresh. Mm-hmm. She also knew that the woman wanted children and that the embarrassment was beginning to be too much for her in the house of Pharaoh. And she didn't just want children, she wanted a son. Mm-hmm. Because every Pharaoh, whether daughter or stepdaughter, has a chance to produce the next king. Mm-hmm. And she knew what time she would go to the place. Did you see Moses' father's name in that story? None. There was no place where his father was mentioned. Mm-mm. She plotted it by herself. She knew if she puts Moses in that basket, since the water was always, because the water would not be fresh if it's not floating. Yeah. So the water was moving all the time. So water was flowing. So it means that if you put a basket there, the tide will carry the basket away. So she put Miriam there to make sure she guides the basket back into place. What does that say? Thorough planning goes into any of all those things.
And Miriam was also there to suggest her as the nanny for the child.
See? But you see, for men, they don't give thorough thought to most of all this because sometimes a man's philandry is temporary. It's just...
It's impulsive.
It's not deep. Like you say, it's not that deep. But you see, when a woman decides to do something, it's deep.
AKA fair women.
So for the case of DNA, it's important. So like they say, know the truth and the truth shall set you free. That's another slogan that DNA can use for their business.
So you recommend?
I recommend DNA.
That you take a DNA test for every child.
Every child, yeah.
And how about the women who feel like it's some women just feel like it's, especially those feel, because we've had situations where a woman just feels like, do you distrust me this much? Mm-mm.
There are cases where you don't even need DNA. When you see the child, Femi Kuti doesn't need DNA. Mm-hmm. Femi's son, Made, doesn't need DNA. But you look at a child. Back in the days, our grandmothers would look at a child and be like, child looks like a father. When the child then grows to become, when you see the child, you will know that
now your papa
born you. Abidemi, this one. Now your papa born you. But you see, there are some other cases where the DNA is needed because you see this child and you're looking at the child, no semblance of nose, ears, face, complexion, everything. Then you now start looking for the fourth generation of the woman to know where she came from. You say, our forefather was yellow like this. So they skipped.
It must have been down the line.
Down the line. So DNA is important, especially if you notice how important it is. Okay, to prove how important it is, you see some parents, some grandparents, when they then become old, they put in their will that all children, especially those ones that have very polygamous tendencies, all children must be tested before payment is done.
Subject to a DNA test.
The DNA. And some of the women, when they see that is a clause, only tender the two that they believe. If they have like 4, they tender the 2 they believe are the children for the DNA. The others, they will not. Because they know, mothers know who they were with that led to some of the children being born. And it also speaks to the fact that when you begin to talk about DNA, then it's not the man that is the problem. Every time DNA is mentioned, there's only one culprit in a DNA issue. Or you don't agree? There's only one culprit. It's the woman.
So it's only the woman who knows who the
It's only the woman who knows. So if she decided to spend time with the man and a man today, spend with another man the next day, and spend the third day, she will know who amongst all 3 could have been the person. She may be lost at, okay, and that speaks a lot about her character. If she was with a man on Monday, with another man on Thursday, with another man on a Saturday, and then when they ask her, she'll be like, I don't know which one of them. Doesn't that speak to? But you see, people now want to make it look like it's the man that is the issue. These men don't like to keep their things in their pants.
On the rare occasion that the child had been switched at the hospital at birth.
That is an issue, and that case has stopped being very common now, because as soon as the child is brought out, a tag is put on their hands
right away,
and that tag is not removed till the child is discharged. So at the time those things used to be done was back in the days. When your child is born now, a tag is put. It's just like those tags they put in your hand when you get into a concert.
But then back then, was it more a case of an honest mistake, or was
some were deliberate? Some were deliberate.
Some people being nefarious.
No, yes, some were deliberate. Like there was a nurse who, because the woman had 3 girls, and the other woman had 3 boys, were like, let's help these people.
That would be a long conversation for another day. Alibaba, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Not everybody knows you are royalty.
No, not everybody knows. Yeah. But my dad keeps saying that even people who lived near palaces are now princes. That you see somebody that he went to one event one time and they were recognizing the person and they said Prince so. And he was looking and he saw the man and knew that their house is about like four houses from the palace. They are not related to the palace, but the guy is Prince. And my dad said, so he understands that I don't put Prince on my name.
Prince by association and proximity.
Prince. Approximately a prince.
Your parents actually called you Hallelujah.
Yeah, because I was the first son after several girls. It was, back in the days, having a son was key.
A big deal.
But in my father's case, it was even more serious because he was the only son that his mother had in the palace. And after that, she had miscarriages all the way. And back then, having a son roots you into the palace. And how they believed that, and something happened later that made them believe that it was the people in the family that harmed her or bewitched her not to even have a son again. And my dad was always sickly and survived by the skin of his teeth. Because when my grandmother, my father's mom, left, my paternal grandmother left the palace to Ughelli and married somebody else. She had 4 sons. Brother Godwin, brother Absalom, brother Augustine, and Gaddafi had sons all.
So it was like the Y chromosome.
They were like
they coming from
this one. They just told her, in this palace, you are lucky you had this one. If you stay here longer, you will not even live to train your child. And she left. So that was why I was named Hallelujah. And it's the Hallelujah that when in command, people were calling me Praise the Lord. And I would then have to be saying Hallelujah. So they say Praise the Lord, I say Hallelujah. And then some friends now started calling me Ali.
Ali.
And so Ali then became Alibaba when I started doing events.
On that bombshell note. Thank you, Baba. Thank you for honoring this.
Thank you for
been fun.
Thank you for inviting me.
Fun. Thank you very much.